Wires everywhere, but we are live. All right, let's check a few things here first and foremost. Live chat's working. I'd imagine you could hear me. I could just test it myself. Turn that off right now. Hurricane season. You're damn right it is, Quincy Fall. You're damn right it's hurricane season. All right. Felt like I did a better job getting closer last time to cut some of the boundaries off. Whatever. Presented by Oddshark. Welcome to the show. All right. So, first and foremost, a reminder as I look to filibuster a few minutes to get some other people involved before we get rolling here. Next stream will be Sunday. There will be two of them. As always, Sunday morning, 11:30 a.m. Eastern, 8:30 a.m. Pacific. We do the full NFL rundown stream. So we're going through the entire card, props, sides, totals, weather, injuries, line moves, all that. 11:30 a.m. Eastern, 8:30 a.m. Pacific. We come back online, like, what is this, AOL? Were we dialing up? We'll be dialing back up. We'll be doing that later in the afternoon. When the final afternoon game ends, we launch and we preview Sunday Night Football. Bunch of games should be on Sunday Night Football this week, and they are not. What is the Sunday night game? Let me double check this spread about this game in a second. Oh boy, everyone's moving on it. NFL Sunday night, Dallas, Philly. All right, unacceptable. As a Philadelphia fan, even I know that game shouldn't be there. Pittsburgh, Baltimore makes plenty of sense. San Francisco, Seattle. Seattle can just be on Sunday Night Football every week for all I care. Every game they play is good, whether I'm losing money on it or not. Every game they play is good. All right, so here's where we're at. Welcome to the show. Time to get to work. Let's start with this. You're setting your clocks back this weekend. Hopefully this is not the first time you're hearing this, but you are setting your clocks back. It's like 2 a.m. Sunday morning. So in the transition from Saturday night to Sunday morning, the clocks go back. Spring ahead, fall back, right? Spring ahead, fall back. Just make sure you know that for your fantasy lineups, for your gambling, for your life. If you have to get up and take care of pets or children or yourself, anything like that, this weekend is the weekend we change the clocks. This is the worst time of year, too. Well, no, this time of year is awesome, but that specific move sucks because then we lose sunlight. It's like this was all for farmers way back in the day. I don't think we need to operate like this anymore. And we can just go ahead and keep the additional sunlight. Some of us want to lay by a pool or try to get a workout in or whatever. It doesn't need to be dark. This isn't the northern part of Sweden, for example, but I digress. So remember that. Number two, this weekend, weather is going to play a bigger role than it has at any point earlier this NFL season. So keep that in mind with all your fantasy lineups, with your gambling, with everything. We're seeing all types of wind, right? There's wind everywhere. 4 games I can tell you right now that have high winds in the forecast. Minnesota, Green Bay. Total was sitting 56. It's now down to 51. New England at Buffalo. Total was sitting 45.5, now down to 41.5. Raiders at Browns. Total was 55.5. It's now down to 51. And the Saints at the Bears. Total was 47, now down to 43.5. Wind plays more of an effect on the offense than anything else. People think it's snow or rain. It can have an effect. Wind can kill a passing game, right? Especially when you get up to 20-plus mile-an-hour winds, it can kill a passing game. So ultimately, you have to take it as serious, if not more serious than anything else. Rain, yeah, if it's a monsoon, teams are going to run, guys are going to slip. Snow, we've seen some blizzards like that Philadelphia, I think it was Detroit game a few years back. There's like 2 feet of snow on the ground. They shouldn't have even been playing, but it was awesome to watch. But then on the flip side of that, that Patriots-Titans game years back, the Patriots hung like 40-plus. I think the Patriots embarrassed the Bears in the snow ones too. But that's the Patriots, so that's probably the anomaly. So keep that in mind. You're going to be dealing with a lot of weather this weekend. It's going to apply in some college football as well. So just file that away as you get set for your fantasy lineups, DFS, gambling, and everything else this weekend. All right, recap. cooking with gas a little bit. Cooking with gas. Monday night went 3-0 in the Monday night game. We had the under for Rams-Bears. Cha-ching. We had the under for Allen Robinson receiving yards. Cha-ching. That one got really dicey. That was great all the way until towards the end of the game. And then he had that 40-some yard reception that put him right there. Then I think he had another reception for a few yards that put him right at 70, and that was the end of the day. That was trending really well, got dicey, ended up winning. David Montgomery was the third bet over 3.5 receptions. He got there. They were force-feeding him the rock at the end of the game in garbage time. So 3-0 there, but not perfect. Lost the baseball game Tuesday night. Congratulations to the Dodgers on your first World Series since 1988. Well paid for the amount of money that went into chasing this thing down. So congratulations on getting that. But we had the Rays in that game and lost. So 3-1 from the last stream puts us at 63 and 57 overall. 6 games over, considering we were more than 10 games under just a few weeks ago. Coming back a little bit. Now it's time to start making some profits out of this because we're starting to dig into the juice we've lost. But in fact, we've pretty much counteracted it. But now it's time to start making some profits. So this is where the push comes into play, which leads us to tonight's football contest. 4 picks coming your way. I have 2 for tonight's game. I also have 1 for a college game tonight and then 1 for a college game on Saturday. So 4 total picks we're going to discuss here today. It's Carolina hosting Atlanta. Panthers a little bit better than expected this season. I think a lot of people wrote them off. I think the win total was something like 5.5. The mindset was that they would not be very good. Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. Luke Kuechly retires. It was already a bad defense. You lose your best defender. And then you have a situation where Matt Rule's coming in from college, Baylor, via Temple, and that they thought it'd take some time. And Rule has done an amazing job. Amazing job. This isn't a great football team, but man, you got to feel good about the direction they are heading. They started the season 0-2. Since then, they've gone 3-1. Hold on. I got some notes on this that I should be talking about because I'm not actually picking the game. You know what? Probably should have been prepared for this. Notes on the Panthers-Falcons game, knowing you're going to talk about Panthers-Falcons, may have been the smart play there, Joe. All right. 0-2 start with a minus 18 point differential, giving up 32 points per game. Right? That's what a lot of people expected. Raiders came in there in week 1 and beat them in a shootout. Week 2, can't remember who it was. I think it was Tampa Bay beat up on them as well. So they go 0-2. They don't look that impressive. They lose Christian McCaffrey. You figure it's all over. After that, they go 3-2. Next 5 games, 3-2. They go from a negative 18 point differential in 2 games to plus 12 in the last 5. And they're only giving up 20 points per game in these 5 games versus the 32 they were giving up at the beginning of the season. Small sample, first 2 teams they played, good offenses, Raiders and Bucks. Since then, they've had the Jags on there and some other suspect offenses like Chicago, but they did play the Saints too. Point is, they're doing a good job. They're not great, but they're heading in the right direction. This is the team you definitely want to keep an eye on moving forward. Atlanta is trash, and I mean that in the literal sense of the word. They're trash. So bad. So much money to so many players that just don't do anything. Atlanta, 32nd in opponent yards per play, 28th in red zone defense. They are so good at finding ways to lose football games. Week 1, they get blown out at home pretty much by Seattle, whatever. Week 2, they're smashing the Cowboys, chance to turn the season around. It turns out the Cowboys suck, by the way. Now that we look back on that game, holy shit, does that look bad. That was back when we thought Dallas was good. And it was like, well, you know, Dallas played really well in the second half. They're a good team. They came back and got them. That sucks for Atlanta. No, Dallas is really bad. Really bad. You let them come all the way back. They give up more points than anybody on defense. How could you not put one more score on the board to put that game away? Like, what were you doing? So they blow that game, and then this stupid onside kick, which cost them. In the Chicago game the following week, they were up 26-10 in the fourth quarter. They blew that lead. Chicago can't even play offense. Imagine blowing a 26-10 lead with like 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter to Chicago. They don't score anywhere at any time under any circumstances. And you blew a 16-point lead at home with 6 minutes to play. It's pathetic. And then last week, the audio just came out from this. In the huddle, Matt Ryan is looking at Todd Gurley and he's saying, don't score. Don't score. Get the first down, go down, we'll run out the clock. He's telling him, don't score. Then he hands it off to him on the next play, and Gurley scores a touchdown. He tried to go down, but credit to the Lions for how well they played that. Because the linebacker and the safety kind of stacked him up a little bit. So Gurley kept his legs moving. They made it look like they were going to try to stop him, and then they just kind of let him go, and he stumbled forward and then realized what was going on, and he tried to flop, and it was too late. It's hilarious, considering Penn State had just screwed it up the day before. So if this happens, it should never happen at any level. But happening at college, you got to get on James Franklin. Happening the next day in the pros, where you should have seen that and just had the reminder out to everyone, which Ryan did, and Gurley still went in. It's just terrible. I don't know what to make of this total. I'm a little thrown off here, and I'm going to tell you why. Hurricane Zeta made landfall, I want to say yesterday, early in the day, in the Gulf region, right around New Orleans, Mississippi, right? And it's kind of working its way up. If this is the Gulf, and this is so stupid that I'm doing this. If this is the Gulf and this is New Orleans, then over here is like the Carolinas. That's the trajectory it's taking. Right? That's the trajectory the hurricane's taking. I told you I could work in weather. I could. You can be more wrong weather than gambling, and it doesn't matter. How often are weather people wrong? Like all the time. Huge snowstorm coming, you get a light dusting, you're still in school. Sorry, should have studied for that test. I got burned on that several times. Trust in weathermen. Anyway, the point is that yesterday I was looking at this line. The total opened around 51.5, and it went down to 49. And it was like, all right, weather's going to be a concern here. Smart guys are getting on this early. I look again today, it's back up to 51.5. So it's like, all right, maybe weather's not going to be a concern. Then I'm on weatherchannel.com, my site, and it says there's going to be thunderstorms tonight. 73 degrees in Charlotte, 75% chance of thunderstorms before, during, and after the game with 10-mile-an-hour winds. So I don't know what to make of this. I see it looking messy, and I think there's going to be a problem, but then I'm looking at the line move, and the line move is more true than anything. Well, they could be dummying it up, but I don't think that's the case here. So I'm not playing the total. I like the under. I thought it would get a little bit messy. These two played each other a few weeks ago. It played to the under. Just because that happened then doesn't mean it's going to happen again now, but it was a data point that was worth considering. So no play on the total. Be careful with some of this. I mean, it looks like it shouldn't be a problem, but the websites are all saying it's all calling for thunderstorms. Injuries tonight. Atlanta's going to be without Tack McKinley, their pass rusher again. He's out. Carolina, Zach Kerr, the defensive tackle, and John Miller, the offensive guard, are both questionable. Russell Okung, offensive tackle, doubtful. So Carolina could be down a key piece to the offensive line. Those announcements officially come out about 90 minutes before kickoff. So look around if you're East Coast, game starts, 8:15. So by 7, you should have that. 4 o'clock Pacific, they should definitely be out. So those are the injuries. Other than that, Julio Jones, guys like that, all good to go here. Line movement in this one. Carolina was a 2.5-point favorite on the look-ahead line. They were about -2, -2.5 when the line came back out earlier in the week. And then it started today plummeting. It went down to 2 across the board. Then it got down to 1.5. I see some 1s out there right now. I'm looking at this. So it's Atlanta money that's hitting the market and moving this down. But 61% of the tickets are on Carolina. Again, do you want to get involved with Atlanta here? What you will hear from people who know what they're talking about is that Atlanta is better than their record indicates. That's true. But one thing their record indicates is that they consistently find ways to lose games. And I don't think we can just write that off. I remember at the beginning of the season, they blew that game against Dallas, but they're better than 0-2. Then they blew it against Chicago. It's like, they're still better than 0-3. And then they blew it last week against Detroit. Like, they always find a way to blow these games. How much do you trust them, especially when it comes to your money, right? Carolina, they've been a nice story. They're kind of overperforming at this point. So the thought process is, do you really trust them at home? They've got a better coaching situation. They're definitely more motivated, but they're performing like Matt Rule's getting the most out of them. Whereas Raheem Morris in Atlanta is getting very little out of out of a roster with a lot of talent. So I'm not playing the side or the total. I do kind of consider Atlanta for 6-point teaser options if you can get at least the 1.5. That'll push you through 3, through 4, and through the key number of 7. That'll get you up to 7.5 at the very least. So I would consider that. Outside of that, there's not a whole lot else I would do side or total, which leads us into the selections, which is why you're all here. Look at that. 15 minutes of just talking. Meant to talk, born to talk. Wife hates it. Just about everyone else hates it, but content. All right. First pick is Todd Gurley over 65.5 rushing yards. That's prop number one. Two props for tonight's game. Gurley over 65.5 rushing yards. A few things are factoring into this, and I do have my notes, and I will bring them up right now. Number one, Carolina's rush defense is terrible. I believe they're 18th in rush defense this season, giving up 124 yards per game. That stinks. And a lot of other metrics point to it being worse than that number actually indicates. Also, when you lose Luke Kuechly, you're going to have problems at the linebacker position. That's going to happen to anybody. So this season, they've been getting gashed on the ground. Now, here comes Todd Gurley, over under 65.5. You might be thinking to yourself, can we trust Gurley? Not the same guy since he started developing arthritis in his knee. That's a great point. Number one, he totally screwed that game up last week. And while this is a short turnaround with a bad knee, you know he's going to be out for redemption, right? Now, he's not going to come out and lay down in this game. He's got to be so pissed he made that mistake. Because in the past, Gurley, when he was at the Rams, knew to slide. He knew he shouldn't have gone in. He's going to run with purpose tonight. And that leads me to number two. Gurley, in his last 24 games, which includes the postseason, his last 24 games, he's gone over 100 yards one time. Can you believe that? It's been 24 games, a sample of 24 games. He's gone over 101 time. You know who that was against? Carolina a couple weeks ago when he absolutely shredded this defense. 14 carries, 121 yards, and 1 touchdown back in week 5. The only time he's gone over 100 yards in his last 24 games. Carolina's defense, man, I'm telling you, they can't stop the run. Atlanta that day, 24 carries for 166 yards. Just 3 weeks ago against Carolina, Atlanta was averaging 6.9 yards per rush. That is an insane number. So there's some risk here with Gurley's knee and potentially the weather, but I like him against this defense. I like what we saw a few weeks ago. I think he's coming in extraordinarily pissed off by the way he screwed that game up last week. And at the very least, he's out for blood. Gurley over 65.5 rushing yards. Number two, Teddy Bridgewater over 284.5 passing yards. First glance, this seems like a really high number. And for Bridgewater, it is because he's averaging about 275 passing yards per game. So about 9 yards below his average. But this is the Atlanta pass defense. They are wretched, absolutely wretched. Atlanta is allowing 333 passing yards per game this season. That is 31st in the NFL. Can you guess in the comments section who is worse? Which team is giving up more passing yards per game than the Atlanta Falcons? It's actually a significant jump. Atlanta's giving up 333. Cowboys, good guess, no. Cowboys giving up more points than anybody else, but not as many passing yards. Who's giving up? Bang. Lucas nails it. The Seahawks. 370 passing yards per game. How pathetic is that? Cliff's got it as well. So does Andrew. Nicely done. Nicely done. Seattle's defense is a whole different story, and we'll talk about them this weekend when they play the Niners. But Seattle's the only team giving up more passing yards than Atlanta. That's number one. 333 yards a game. We're asking Bridgewater to get to 285 because it's 284.5. So what did Teddy throw for the last time against Atlanta in a low-scoring game that the Panthers led just a few weeks ago? 313 yards. He soared over this. That was a 23-16 win. That was a lower-scoring game. And he had the lead, so he's able to run the ball a little bit later. So keep that in mind. Atlanta has given up 307 or more passing yards in 6 straight games. So maybe that comes crashing to a halt tonight. And again, be careful, because if it's pouring rain, like we saw in that Buffalo-Kansas City game on Monday, the numbers, I mean, these guys aren't going to be able to throw as much. They're not going to move as fast. Keep that in mind. But that's what I like as of now. Numbers going up, point spread-wise, so I'm not going to anticipate weather being a huge concern. So Bridgewater over 284. Actually, FanDuel has it 282.5. We can shop. 282.5 for Bridgewater's over. Gurley's over 65.5. So those are the two for tonight's game. Number 3, I don't know how long you want to wait on this because this one's apparently moving. And by the time I get on Daily Wager tonight, ESPN2, 6 to 7 Eastern, shameless plug, I have a feeling that I'm going to be laying the 3. And that is with Colorado State at Fresno State. Let me bring that up right now. Still 2.5, but the 2.5s are juiced. Fresno opened as a 2-point favorite in this game. So we're all the way to Colorado State -2.5. Colorado State money pouring in. I do see at least 1-3 out there. That's pick number 3 for tonight, Colorado State. Couple key reasons. Number one, the situation. So due to COVID and a lot of other stuff, this is Colorado State's first game of the season. They're playing Fresno State, who just played last week against Hawaii. More on that in a bit. The point I'm getting at is there's a crazy trend this season. Teams that have not played going up against teams that have played at least one game. The team that hasn't played is 19-7 against the spread. 19-7. A lot of people trying to figure out why that is. Is it injuries? Is it, why would the team not playing have the advantage? Kazarian made a really good point on Daily Wager, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern today, ESPN2, shameless plug, that you don't get to watch tape on these guys. And that's key for Fresno State because Colorado State's got a new head coach in Steve Addazio who's coming over from Boston College. This is going to be a new offense. So you can study the Boston College tape, but then you're not studying the players you're facing. You can study the Colorado State tape, but then you're not studying the offense that you're going to be facing. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. That's been a great trend so far this season. We saw San Jose State win last week on this trend as well against Air Force. So that's one of the reasons I like this. Number two, Fresno's defense is a huge problem. They're light up front. They don't have very big, heavy defensive tackles. You can push them around a little bit. You can run on them. They missed a ton of tackles last week against Hawaii, and Hawaii had no problem rushing against these guys. 323 rushing yards against Fresno State last week, averaging 6.1 yards per carry. Colorado State wants to run. Addazio brought 3 offensive linemen from Boston College with him to Colorado State. They all transferred. They're all expected to start in this game. So they're going to come in here. He loves to run tempo. He loves to move quick. Boston College, I think, was top 5 last year in seconds per play. They get up to the line of scrimmage. They go really fast. They're trying to keep you on your heels. Fresno State's defense, I don't think is going to be ready for that, especially since they don't have a lot of tape to work with for this game. Outside of that, I think I've hit on all the key points. Fresno State had a lot of trouble last week protecting their quarterback. So they've had some trouble in the trenches. So we're going to go with Colorado State -2.5, play number 3. And then finally, play number 4 is going to be Saturday. I wouldn't go crazy with this one. I'm simply just playing a situation that I've played a couple times in college football this year. I'm going to take Rutgers plus 10.5 over Indiana. Rutgers plus 10.5 over Indiana. Rutgers had a nice win against Michigan State last weekend. Michigan State's just dreadful. But it's a good win for Rutgers. Greg Schiano's back at the helm of that program. That's how you build confidence. Go out there, get those wins. Indiana, as a 6.5-point dog, had that thriller against Penn State. Nittany Lions come in, top 10 ranked team. You make big plays late. They screwed up by running into the end zone and giving Indiana the ball back. Indiana scores. They go to overtime. Kid stretches. They win the game. Everyone's partying in Bloomington. Everyone's having a great time. Not a good recipe for this week's game. You beat Penn State. You party. You think you're kings of the world. You turn around. You got Rutgers. Who's Rutgers? Forget them. Laying 10.5. Give me Rutgers in that spot. Also, Indiana. This is their 10th time as a road favorite since 2016. 10th time. Previous 9, 1, 7, and 1 against the spread. Not a good spot. 4 picks tonight. Todd Gurley over 65.5 rushing yards. Teddy Bridgewater over 282.5 passing yards. Colorado State -2.5 over Fresno State. And then on Saturday, Rutgers plus 10.5 over Michigan State. I'll have more college plays. Check Twitter. Or hit me up on Twitter if you don't see anything. But I'll have a few more by the time it kicks off. What, you think I'm going to bet one game on Saturday? You're crazy. I'm going to have a bunch. Let's not say a bunch. I'm going to have a few. Bama -18 first half. Bama used to be money in the bank in the first half. Money in the bank. I know a few people that made a killing just betting those blindly every single week. See you Sunday. Thank you for coming. I always appreciate the support. You guys are fantastic. You have a lot of options for your degenerate gambling needs. So we appreciate you flying the degenerate gambling skies with us. Have a safe trip. I will see you Sunday morning, 11:30 a.m. Eastern, 8:30 a.m. Pacific. We'll do the full rundown. And then in the afternoon, last game will end. Boom, we go live again. We'll preview Sunday Night Football. Eagles, Cowboys. Probably bet overs and punts, turnovers, sacks, flags, all that stuff. Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend. Boo!